Welcome to the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast. This is the podcast where we will have real talk on what is happening in the local market of Greater Vancouver. Here we'll discuss the news, strategies, and interviews to help you man up on your real estate career. I'm your host, Cameron Manning. All right, everyone, welcome back to the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast. I'm glad you're here joining me again for another epic interview today. Today, I am really honored to be introducing you guys to someone who's not quite 100% in the real estate realm, but he's got a lot of experience dealing with investors, dealing with realtors as well. I'd like you guys to welcome the goalie mindset coach, Pete Fry. Pete, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Cam. Excited to be here with you. Very
Awesome.
Excited to be here.
Awesome. All right. So for those of you guys who haven't heard of Pete Fry yet, or you don't know, I met Pete. It's been almost 6 years now that we've known each other.
Yeah.
And that's through the opportunity that I had to work with Pete's wife, Kelly Fry, who we've also had here on the podcast. Now, Kelly, I started as her assistant, got to work at Kelly's house a lot back when I was her assistant, so got to hang out with Pete quite a bit. And I got to know Pete and kind of his background, but I don't want to be the one to tell your background. I want you to kind of let us know kind of like who Pete Fry is, where you started, and where you started moving into the whole goalie mindset kind of training. Because again, you're the goalie mindset coach. So go ahead, let us know what brought you there.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, I guess if you go back a long ways, and my phrase, how I phrase it is Pete Fry, the goalie mindset guy. Pete Fry, the goalie mindset. So I changed coach with guy. So
Got it.
Okay. Well, I was a hockey player. I was a goaltender a long time ago, and I can remember, I think, like probably 32 years ago, I get a call from Marcel Johnson, Director of Player Personnel for New Jersey Devils, saying, we've drafted you to the New Jersey Devils. Welcome to our organization, and all positive stuff. And I remember my first thoughts were, I don't have a chance. Like I was just, negative thinking, stinking thinking. And, I ended up going to training camp and, played pro for a few years. And, but I did not have the right mindset that it takes. And so I've taken those experiences and done a ton of study of personal development throughout the years, like lots of, Tony Robbins and a ton of other speakers. I don't have a university education. I'm not a sports psychologist. I do work with sports psychologists, but I am not a sports psychologist. And what I've done is I've taken all that and kind of wrapped it up so that I have programs that have powerful impacts on goaltenders, and I'm seeing them go from being a backup goalie in a Western Hockey League to playing their first NHL game just by changing their whole mindset and what they think on, which kind of brings us to today, because a lot of the stuff I do with the goalies, it can be applied to real estate investing 100% by following the same type of formula on the mental side.
Right. So it's not even just real estate. It's almost any industry you can really just kind of apply it to. Right now, kind of digging back a little, like I like to kind of peel out the success and the failures of our speakers, because I think that helps to build, who you are, because without failure, you don't have success. Right. So kind of going back a little bit further, you said you were a goalie, you were drafted into the NHL yourself, actually, New Jersey Devils. Right. And but what happened there, and why did the whole NHL career for yourself maybe not go as further as you might have wanted it to?
Okay, great question. Thanks for bringing back that pain. I Just joking.
I like to dig a little bit because that's how we build, right?
Exactly. No, that was my first huge failure. And so here's what happened. I told you that when I got drafted, my first thought was I don't have a chance. And I just came off a season where I was playing in the Western Hockey League in Victoria, where I was an all-star in the Western Hockey League, played 54 games, I think, and had a great, lots of good stuff going. I was in phenomenal shape. And then the mistake I made was I had studied all the teams in the National Hockey League, and when it came to New Jersey, I thought, I don't have a chance if this team drafts me, and I just thought their other goalies were too good. And so I stopped my training routine. I stopped preparing, and when they flew me to training camp, I walk in the hotel, and literally Kirk McLean is walking by me. He just got traded to the Vancouver Canucks for Patrick Sundstrom. And then I go up to my room, and my roommate, Anders Carlson, he's like, Pete, look at the roster. It says delete Sean Burke to the Canadian Olympic team, delete Chris Terry to the U.S. Olympic team. They didn't have enough goalies at training camp. And meanwhile, I had played myself out in my head already because I thought they had too many and I didn't think I had a chance. So the next day we do our fitness testing. This was my first big, huge failure. And we do our fitness testing. We do a VO2 max. You know what a VO2 max is?
I got a vague idea, but why don't you let us know?
Yeah. You go on a treadmill. They stick a tube in your mouth and they measure your oxygen intake.
Right.
And you go until you quit, or they say your heart's going too crazy and you have to quit.
Right.
And so we do our fitness testing. Now you're teamed up with two other players, and my partners were the two Swedes on the team, Patrick Sundström, who just got traded from Vancouver, and Anders Karlsson, my roommate. And the Swedes were known to be in pretty good cardiovascular shape back then. And so Sundström goes first, and he knocks it out of the park. I think it's like 14 minutes or 15 minutes, which was really good back then. And then Karlsson does around the same. And then I get on. It's my turn. And come 7-8 minutes, I stop. They don't tell me to get off. I stop. I'm done. I'm too tired. And that's it. Well, the next day, the coach, Carpenter was his last name. I forget if it was Doug or Terry, red hair. He coached the Leafs as well, too. Pulls me aside, and he says, do you know who was in the absolute worst condition of anyone here at training camp? And I didn't have to answer that question. I think he was telling me it was me just by how he said it. So that was my first big failure, and everything went kind of spiraled downhill from there in the training camp. They eventually sent me back, they're down to Utica in the American Hockey League, then back to junior. And I didn't have the best attitude. Called him a month later and said, hey, can you sign me? Or I called Marshall Johnson, say, sign me or release me. And he still hasn't called me back. So.
Oh, wow.
Maybe he'll call someday.
You're still remembering that. All right.
Yeah.
All right.
That was the first big failure. There's been lots of others, but that's the first big one.
Right. Well, you know what? But through failure comes success. So that was where you discovered that it was, your mindset, because you said it yourself. You just didn't feel mentally that you were ready for the New Jersey Devils. You weren't ready for the NHL mentally. Whereas if maybe you had the different mindset, you might have been there and you might have, worked harder, kicked some ass, and next thing you know, you were actually, potentially the, first string goalie if you continued mentally, right? You don't know.
100%.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm glad you brought that up because that's what I pass on to my clients now.
Mm-hmm.
And this can be used in real estate as well, too. So if I go back to then, if you can imagine this, imagine if when I got drafted, all of a sudden I formed a clear picture. I cut out a picture of their top goaltender and say put my head on that picture and put it on my ceiling so I'd see it every morning when I wake up, every night before I go to bed. So you have that crystal clear picture. You do the same thing in real estate investing as well too. So I got that crystal clear picture, and then the mind knows where to go. Like it makes better decisions. It's not going to say, oh, that's where I'm going. I better be in the best darn shape I can. As opposed to if you don't have that clear picture, then it's easy to have so many distractions and not take action in the right way. So that was the big lesson to pull out of that, was to have that clear picture, but then also, take tons of action. And when you take that action, I think this is key. When you take that action, now you have to have the mental toughness. Right. So a lot of people nowadays, they'll form a clear picture of, they'll be sitting at home, things are comfortable, and they'll set a goal. They'll say, hey, I want to do this. And it's easy to set a goal in that moment. Then they go and they start to do it. Well, it's not as easy to get there as they thought. So they have a lot of problems and challenges along the way, and they end up quitting or they give up.
Yeah.
That's where the mental toughness comes in.
Absolutely. You need the fortitude to keep moving forward.
Exactly. And so the mental toughness is being able to choose what you focus on and to focus on what you can control.
Absolutely.
What you can. And if you do that, and then you understand what feedback you're getting, and then you just adjust your approach and you keep taking action again and again and again, you're going to get to your target, your goal. May take longer, but you're going to get there.
For sure. And so we've got the opportunity. We've had you come and speak at some of our events twice now, and we're always parlaying that work that you're doing with the goalies to real estate, and you kind of touched on it there. But you dive a lot deeper with your coaching too, right? It's not just some visualization. It goes way beyond just visualization, right? It's teaching self-talk. It's again, you said the big key, massive action, right? Without having the game plan and the steps, you're not going to get to that visualization because you actually have to map it out at the same time and create that goal. So talk to us maybe about, how you work with the goalies from like the first minute that they call you and say, you know what, Pete, I want to hire you to work on my mindset. I have a goal to move from, maybe it's the WHL, maybe it's even just a teenager wanting to get into WHA, then to NHL. What's kind of the first steps that you start with these goalies and start building upon from there?
Very, very good question. In fact, I'm going to take you through. Actually, I'm going to go from. Can I go from a goalie to a player? I don't work with players a lot, but one of the goaltenders that I work with that had huge success and now is going to NHL training camp. His brother just. He wanted me to work with him and his brothers in the Western Hockey League. I'm not going to say his name for namesake. So here's exactly what I did with him. The very first session, it's just like we talked about, was not now to change the thinking from. Where do I think I can play? Based on where I'm at, where do I think I can play? Just like, that'd be like a real estate investor saying, what do I think I can do based on where it's at? To change that question to, you look at all the unbelievable entrepreneurs that are around here, they don't ask that question.
No.
They ask the question, if I could play anywhere at all,
where would it be?
Where would it be?
Right.
So to come up with that clear picture, first of all, and then once that picture is there, then I'll take them through different key things. Like one of the sessions we'll go through will be their beliefs. So to go through, what are some thoughts that you may have on a consistent basis that are holding you back?
Right.
And then where did those come from? Right. And then go in and dive in and change those so that their beliefs are supporting them to where they're moving forward. So that would be one of them. Another one is work on their confidence. So we have a complete session on confidence because if you look at it, and it'd be the same, I always say it'll be the same for real estate investors. Let's say you're starting out on a project and your confidence is, say, a level 8 out of 10.
Right.
Just like a goalie starting out in a game and it's an 8 out of 10. Okay, so you started the 8 out of 10. And I always get the goalie, I go, hold your hand, palm down at chin level. And so they start, they're doing that. And I say, okay, so the game starts or the real estate investment starts.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden something goes south in the deal, or as a goalie, you don't make a save. Where does your hand go? They'll always tell me it goes down.
Right.
Okay, so we got to get to the point where when you don't come up with a save or a real estate deal starts to go south, that hand stays at the same level.
Right.
Because confidence is internal.
Yeah.
It's not external. It comes from how you move and what you focus on. And if you practice this, you can get really good at it. So you can be in a real estate deal and things can be going so south, everything, Murphy's Law kicks in, everything starts to go wrong. But if your confidence remains the same way, you're going to take better actions.
Yeah.
You're not going to panic. You're going to make the better decisions. And just like a goaltender, when a goaltender's out there, and if a goaltender doesn't come up with a save, if he keeps his composure, that confidence level stays at the same height, say an 8 out of 10, he's going to have a much better chance of making the next save.
Right.
If it isn't, this is what I get all the time. Well, I did make the save, and then I was thinking negative thoughts. I kept thinking about what just happened. How many times has that happened in real estate, right? People are thinking about the deal that just went south. They just keep playing it and they're talking to their buddies. This person's a jerk. And their focus is all on the crap.
And suddenly that confidence goes down because they're not focusing.
Exactly. Right. So they got to be able to keep that confidence level up. So we work on that. We work on that through how they move their body as well too, because you can change how you feel simply by shoulders back, chin up, smiling, breathing deep. Like that's how a confident person is going to stand or sit. And an unconfident person is going to be, shoulders forward, looking down, droopy face. You can tell when you see them. Same thing in athletics. Same thing would be in real estate. And if you think of it, if you meet someone in real estate and they're like shoulder, and there are some really good real estate investors that are probably not confident, but they're just very sharp and they make a lot of good moves. So, but it's just a different impression. You probably want to do business with someone who's a little not cocky, just more confident.
Yeah, well, there's a huge difference between cocky and confident at the same time, right? Because confidence, to me, that's I want to work with someone who's confident in their skills because they exude that they know what they're going to do, and they're going to protect your money or they're going to protect your investment. Whereas cocky, they don't come across the same way as someone who's confident. They kind of they talk down. They may be shoulders back, chin up, but they're talking down to you versus someone who's talking with confidence and knowing their skills. So it's a totally separate thing.
Yes.
Right. And so, yeah, knowing the difference on how to be confident without cocky is key for sure.
100%. In fact, having said that, another key thing that I work with, and I just when I do seminars for goalies, it's sometimes it's humorous. I get them to write down their top 5 friends that they hang around with.
Right.
And I go back to another huge failure I had. As a 16-year-old in the Western Hockey League, I played 39 games, was ranked in the top 3 goalies to get drafted the next year. I went back in the summer, and I hung out with my buddies back home. They weren't bad people. They were nice guys, but they weren't into drinking or drugs, but they weren't athletes.
Right.
And so I hung out with them. And
total different mindset.
Their habits became my habits.
Right.
And they had this word called Big E, which stood for too much effort. And so that played in my head. So when I go back as a 17-year-old, my first draft year, all these high expectations, supposed to be the number 1 goalie, and we go to work hard and practice. And the first thought in my mind is Big E. This is too much effort. I had those same thoughts, right? It's like taking a person who just sits on a couch all the time and putting him in an arena and saying, go play, right?
Right.
That was me that year. And I played 31 games, terrible year, got traded all the way to Brandon. That's what happens when you get in the GM's bad book. They trade you to the other side of the country in the coldest place on the planet.
So for those who don't know, that's in Manitoba, just outside Winnipeg. So when he says coldest place in the world, yeah, they call it Winterpeg for a reason.
Exactly.
I have friends from Brandon. Yeah.
Yep. And at that point, I got so low that I quit, came home, and waited till I got traded back to the West Coast. Right, I was kind of a wimpy attitude there that I had. Right.
Versus going into Brandon, dominating and showing your worth, coming back, kind of thing.
Yes.
Right? So,
yes. So that was a big result of the people I hung around with. Mm-hmm. And I can remember that summer, Donnie Mean, who's a top agent in the game of hockey. I Googled Don Mean, and he flies out to see me. He wanted to represent me that summer, right? And I remember him saying, Pete, you should get on the ice with Russ Courtnall over at the Rack Club. He's going on the ice at these times and stuff like that. And I was just thinking, I don't need to do that. Well, Russ was a first-round draft pick by the Montreal Canadiens, had a phenomenal career, and there's an example of there's a guy I should have been hanging out with as opposed to the non-athletes. And once again, I like my friends. They weren't bad people. But anyways, so getting back to my point there, when I do a seminar and I got a bunch of goalies, usually I'll say, write out your list of your top 5 friends. Rate them on a scale of 1 to 10. Of number 10, they're totally helping you in where you're going to your goals. Like everything they say, their thoughts, their movements, their actions. Number 1, they're dragging you down. Where are they on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah.
And if they're too low on that, you gotta fire them. You gotta fire them.
And that parallels quite well into the real estate side of things too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, one thing I'll tell some of my story here. When I moved to Vancouver, I was fortunate because I said, firstly, I wanted to go full time into real estate, and 2, I knew no one here. So I was able to create my friends list based on those who I wanted to be in business with, right? So Kelly became one of them, right? Yep. Obviously, a big impact in my life. And then I just started going to networking events for real estate. And now my social life is surrounded by people I want to be in business with, right?
Huge.
I don't have a lot of friends that are not in the industry or above me, right? I get to connect with people like Russell Westcott, who comes out to events, big joint venture raising capital. I get to hang out with people like Ozzy Durock or Ralph Case, which is just epic. But when I was back in Alberta and I was first getting started in real estate, it was the same thing. I still hung out with my old high school friends. I still, I worked at a local swimming pool, so everyone was, if they were older than me in the pool, they were career people, but they weren't necessarily in the real estate realm. So their thought process was, no, just work hard, stay in a job. So again, it was, my career might have grown had I been involved with more real estate success mindset people than those of my friends who were, well, you're not going to college. Well, what do you mean you're going to just go and invest? Investing is risky. Investing is this, that, and the other. So it totally parallels what you said for real estate, whether you're a realtor, a mortgage broker, or an investor, who cares, any sort of real estate profession, same thing. If you want to be the best in your field, you got to hang out with the best mindset, best people, the ones who will motivate and support you. Similar to if you want to be an athlete, like you said, hang out with athletes.
Yeah.
Because they'll push you. So total parallel. And this is why I love having Pete, because the work that he does is totally transferable into this industry, right? So I'll let you kind of go back. So like you've worked on the friends list now. So kind of what's the next step from there?
Yeah. So we're working on the friends list was a big thing. In fact, I get this text from a goaltender, and I think he was like 17 or 18 or something like that. Like he plays junior, and he's like, Pete, girlfriend or no girlfriend, right? Because that's always the thing that came up. Like, when
17 years old, that's the one thing on your mind besides hockey, right?
When I played in Portland, the Western Hockey League, as a 16-year-old, I had my first real girlfriend. Her name was Terry Jo, very nice girl. And my general manager found out I had a girlfriend right when we were entering the playoffs, and we're going to play New West Bruins, Cliff Ronning, Pokey Reddick, Billy Ranford. We're going to play New West. Craig Berube, who just won the Stanley Cup, was on their team, and we're going to play them in the playoffs. And our general manager sat me for the playoffs because I had a girlfriend.
So you didn't even get to play.
I didn't even get to play
because you had a girlfriend.
Yes. The GM back then, he had some other issues as well too. That he was a little bit of a creeper or whatever.
Right.
Say that.
Well, besides, yeah.
But anyways, so it was crazy. So that's a lot of times that's a big thing in hockey is don't have a girlfriend. So the guy texts me, he's like, girlfriend or no girlfriend? And I said, well, remember we went through the friends list, scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Where does she rank?
Exactly.
And he texts me back. He's like, no girlfriend. Right. But there are some girls that would be fantastic.
Absolutely.
Like
they've got to line
athletes.
up. They've got to line up with mentally where you're at as well, right?
Yes.
I mean, if they're going to be that life partner, they got to support you, and vice versa. But they got to be someone who will push you forward.
100%.
Yeah, totally.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, so girlfriend or no girlfriend. So if you guys are in real estate, same thing.
Exact same thing. Oh, totally. Right? If you're an entrepreneur or you're a real estate investor and your partner is someone who just works and nothing against people that just work 9 to 5, but they just work 9 to 5 and that's all they see. That's it. The paycheck every 2 weeks, and they don't understand the taking the risks and all that stuff. Man, they're going to be questioning what you're doing. And that's going to change your thinking.
Absolutely.
Right? Totally change your thinking.
For sure.
Another thing I go over with my clients is, your subconscious mind is so powerful. One of my mentors early on was a gentleman named Lee Poulos. If you've ever eaten at a spaghetti factory, Lee is one of the founders of the Spaghetti Factory.
Okay.
He has great stuff. He's got great programs, and he did a lot of stuff with cancer patients, like with the mind and things like that. But he did visualizations for the Oilers and mental talks with them in the 80s when they were winning all the Stanley Cups.
Right.
One thing he said was Wayne Gretzky, of all the players, Wayne Gretzky took the most notes.
Right.
Everyone. Some guys are like, this is crap, but Gretzky took the most notes, and he did it with the Vancouver Canucks. Obviously, didn't have as much success with them as he did with Edmonton.
Can't win them all.
No, exactly. One thing he said, Pete, he goes, your critical mind is like the size of a golf ball. And your subconscious mind is like the size of BC Place, which is a big football stadium where the football team plays in Vancouver here. So you think of it, a golf ball is so tiny. BC Place is huge. Well, BC Place is like your subconscious mind, and there's information going into it all the time. And that information that goes into your subconscious mind, you have between 32 to 72 trillion cells in your body. And it depends on how you measure. That's why there's a big variance, 32 to 72 trillion cells. And of those 32 to 72 trillion cells, every single cell has 100,000 receptors. So think about 100,000 receptors on 32 to 72 trillion cells. So everything that you hear that goes in your mind, they are picking up the sounds, the vibrations, and they're acting on it for you. So this subconscious mind has to be used. The most successful people use it. They may not know it, but they've used it, or they've had something done at a young age. Things have gone in their subconscious mind. So the other thing that I go over with the clients is make sure good information is going in your subconscious mind through, heck, even like we were talking before, and I said, don't watch Orange is the New Black, because I watched like 3 or 4 episodes of that, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm thinking like the people that are in the Orange and the New, it's just negative thinking, right? It just goes in the subconscious mind, and you get that negative feeling. Watch something that's positive. Music. I just got a friend, a shout out for Richard Spagliano. He just came up with a new album. He used to be the lead singer, or not lead singer, but was a drummer for a band that would open for Nazareth.
Okay.
But now he's older and he's taking action and starting to form. So he's had his record come out, and it's a lot of positive stuff. Great for the mind to listen to. Right. So I tell my athletes, listen to great stuff. Listen to stuff that's going to be positive for you, that's going to be good when it goes in your subconscious mind.
Yeah.
Or else it'll bring on stinking thinking if it's not positive.
Well, I mean, I'm sure you've seen the video on YouTube, but there's a video showing water crystals, right? Like under a microscope, being subjected to both positive words and negative words, positive music, negative music. Things like, I love you, and you suddenly see under a microscope the water is just like a beautiful, like well put together crystal, looks like it's something would be hanging off of someone's pendant. And then in the same words, using the same tonality, they say like, I hate you, and the water just looks like a bubbling mess, right? I'm sure you've seen that video on YouTube, but it's powerful, because at the end of the day, our body is what, like 80 or 85% water, right? So when the same thing that you're saying, having all that positivity come to you, it helps keep your body in line based on the fact we are all around water. So it shows the connectivity to that. And then again, if you've got all that hate and that negativity, what it does to your body physically, which then obviously translate mentally as well, being that we are so much made of water. If you haven't seen the video, just look up, water. I think it's just like water reacting to words or something like that on YouTube.
Powerful.
Very powerful. Very powerful. Check it out. Really cool. So we're working on words now, and kind of moving forward. Then now we've kind of talked, their confidence, their best friends, the words they use, girlfriend or no girlfriend. Kind of what else do we work on with goalies that? In the program.
We've talked a little bit about visualization, but I want to talk to that a little bit more, because that goes into the subconscious mind.
Absolutely.
Right, and that is one of the biggest things you can do for the subconscious mind. The University of Chicago study, they took 3 groups of basketball players, and I'm just going to talk about Group 1 and Group 2, because Group 3 didn't do anything, so they didn't improve at all. But they measured their free throw success. How many free throws they could get in out of 10. And then they said, or 100 or something like that. It was big. I think it was more like 100. If they took 100 free throws, what would they get in? And then they said, Group 1, you're going to practice for the next 30 days. You're going to go to a basketball court. You're going to practice. Group 2, you're not going to practice. You're just going to visualize every day. You're not going to touch a basketball, go near a basketball court, just visualize. At the end of the 30 days, they retested them. Group 1 that practiced every day improved 24%. Group 2 that didn't touch a basketball improved 23%, almost as much, just through the power of visualization.
Right.
One of the things I get my clients to do, I go, stand there and you can try it right now. Like if you're listening to this podcast, try this right now. Stand up, lock your feet in, and do you want to do this, or you can't really because you're sitting down, right? So I guess you can't really do it.
Hey, I'll stand up and do it.
I wonder if you could do it where you're sitting down.
Well, let me know. Let's try this out.
Okay.
You guys can join me. Join me if you're listening at home or in your office. You're not driving. Because obviously we want to make sure your eyes are open while you're driving. But let's try this. Let me know what I need to do.
So
I'm gonna stand up.
Stand up. Lock your feet and shoulder width apart. Okay. Point your right finger forward just like that. And then what I want you to do is now I want you to keep your feet locked in. Go to the right as far as you can. Mark the spot and come back. Okay, come back. Now, drop your hands at your sides. Close your eyes. Now, Cam, in your mind only, I want you to see yourself pointing your right finger forward. Feel your shoulder just in your mind. See, you did it physically. That's all those receptors, right? They're taking action. That's the power of the subconscious mind. Okay, so in your mind only, see yourself pointing your right finger forward. Feel your shoulder as if it's limp and loose, as if it's made from a handful of loose rubber bands. And see yourself in your mind only going to the right. And see yourself going further and further and further and further. Doing a full 360, one full circle all the way around. See that picture crystal clear in your mind. See it getting bigger. See it getting brighter. See it moving closer. See yourself going further and further and further, doing one full 360 and even further than that in your mind, crystal clear. You have greatness and power within you. Now open your eyes, point your right finger forward, and now go to the right. Go further and further and further and further and further and further and further. Okay. So my question is, did you go further the second time?
I actually did, yeah. Yeah, no, I when I was going around, for those who can't see it, I turned, I was able to point to basically where you can see it, but the doorknob there.
Yeah.
And then the second time around, I was able to get to the corner of the TV. So, it's a decent amount
25% further or something like that?
Yeah, it's about probably 20% further.
Okay.
So
okay.
definitely an improvement there. Just again, same movement. But yeah, that was kind of incredible. Like, mentally, when you did the first time, you just kind of feel, oh, well, that's as far as I can go. And then, you start visualizing it. And the next thing you know, I'm going, like I said, probably a good 20% further than I thought my body could go.
That's the power of those 100,000 receptors on every 32 to 72 trillion cells that you have in your body. The power of your subconscious mind. Now, so here's what I say to goalies. I say, if you don't have a clear picture of your goalie career, of where you want to play, that exact team you want to play on, what are you giving up? Just like a finger point. So you think of a real estate investor. And it's easy, man. Life takes over. There's so many things to do. There's kids, there's friends, there's stuff, there's bills to pay, there's everything. So life can kind of take over, and we can go through life with no clear picture.
Yeah.
With no crystal clear picture. And that's just like being a plane in the sky with no clear picture on where you want to land. You think about it. Would you buy a plane ticket to almost Hawaii? No, you're going to buy a plane ticket to Hawaii.
Yeah.
Right? One of my clients played his first NHL game at 32 years old. He had drifted for the first 10 years in his goalie career, and I asked him, what's one thing, mental block you think holds you back? And he said, well, I see myself as an almost NHL goalie. And I'm like, okay, we got to change that right away.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't buy a ticket to almost Hawaii. You're going to end up in the ocean. Right? Let's get the ticket to Hawaii. So he set that clear picture, and within, I think it was like 12 months, he played his first NHL game against the Oilers, played for Chicago Blackhawks. Jeff Glass got first star in his first game. And one of the big things was lots of action after that picture. Like Jim Carrey says, you can't visualize and eat a sandwich. You got to act a lot. Right? You got to take a lot of action after. So for real estate, you think of it. If you got to make sure you form that clear picture. Do not let life get in the way. Keep that picture clear. And I have a goalie mindset gym for my goaltenders, and what it does, it's got a morning fast start, right? I should do this for everyone, but it's for goalies. A morning fast start where they get up in the morning. It's got a routine that they do. One of the things they do the first thing when they open their eyes, they don't check their phone. How many people listening check your phone the first thing in the morning?
Yeah,
right?
No, I'm bad for that, actually.
Or get up at 4 a.m. and check your phone when you're still sleeping.
Yeah.
So first thing when you wake up, look at your ceiling. You have to have your picture up there. Look at your picture, your clear picture of where you're going. Let that sink in for 5 minutes in your subconscious mind, right? Do that. If you do that every morning, that is so easy to do, but it's also easy not to do.
Yeah.
Right. So if you do that every morning. So that's one of the things that Jeff does. One of the things that I get my clients to do there. And then last thing before you go to bed at night, boom, you're looking at that picture.
Right.
You're not watching Orange is the New Black last thing before you go to bed. You're watching that clear picture of your future. I got some affirmations and things like that as well too to do. But so the power of having that clear picture and keeping it, because what happens is you can form that clear picture and then you can start to take action in your deals, and all of a sudden you got 4 or 5 deals going on, and you're spending so much time within those deals that you kind of forget where you're going.
Yeah.
Right? Like
you're focused on the here and now of that specific deal, but not what that deal is going to do for you to get you towards that dream.
Yes.
Because, I mean, the deal is not the dream, right? The deal is the getting you to
vehicle.
That dream, right? It's the vehicle.
Yeah.
It's the action you're taking to get you there. Just like, from, I guess, if I can parlay this for a goalie, it's getting into the gym. Right?
Yes.
The deal is the gym. You have to be out working out on, if you're not doing deals, you're not working out towards your long-term
I love it.
goal,
I'm going to use that.
Right? Perfect. Take it. Good. It's yours.
That's awesome. Yeah, exactly. And sometimes if the vehicle isn't working out, what do you got to do?
Yep.
You got to change it. You got to
change
hop
the
in another
workout
vehicle.
routine. Change the deals you're doing.
Bingo.
Absolutely.
Bingo.
Absolutely. I love it. I mean, guys, I always love hearing from Pete. The guy is so motivating. He's got the right attitude, and he really works for the goalies. You've had now a few goalies that have gone from your training into their for lack of a better word, dream job, right, into the NHL. So you just mentioned Jeff Glass, Chicago Blackhawks. Within 12 months, you got him to the point where he's 32 years old being drafted into the NHL. Like, that's powerful, because most people being drafted, what's the average age would you say a draftee is?
Yeah, and he wasn't. He was signed. You can't get drafted after you're 19, I think, or something like that. It's just but yeah. So what happened was he basically got a deal with Chicago, and then played. I think he played like 17 games or 18 games, and although last year he was in the minors again, but it didn't matter because and you can't control the GM's decisions, but you can control the action that you take, and he put his focus on that. Had a phenomenal season, and now he's a free agent right now, looking to get signed again. So there's something's going to happen here soon for him there. And there's another great story is Dylan Ferguson, who was a backup goalie with Kamloops Blazers, and he asked his GM, "Can I get some more ice time?" And the GM's like, "Are you serious? Connor Ingram's the number one goalie." If you guys remember, Connor Ingram was a goalie for World Juniors for Canada a couple of years ago, and within 7 months, he was playing a game here at Rogers Arena against the Canucks.
Yeah, right.
Right, and won the game. This is Vegas's first exhibition game, I think, of their. Anyway, so he signed with them now. His first year full pro coming up this season.
Right.
And some other guys that are having some phenomenal success as well too.
It's awesome. All right, so really just kind of bringing it back in, because we're kind of getting towards the end of our time here. At the end of the day, like I said, I'm just like, I'm flabbergasted. Obviously, I'm like, I start thinking what I need to do every time I talk to Pete to like change my mindset. At the end of the day, though, like really some final advice, I guess you can give to a real estate investor, a realtor, any sort of real estate professional, or anyone who's listening to this podcast who's an entrepreneur, period. What's some kind of like final advice that if they don't have a mindset coach like you, that they could just start small, like the first thing they should do today that they should start implementing just to get things rolling?
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to take a look. I got a couple of notes on my phone here.
Awesome.
Right.
Yep.
So, okay, number one is make sure you got that clear picture.
Have that clear picture.
Take some time, right? And have that clear picture so that when you look at it, it juices you. You get fired up when you look at it. Put it on your bedroom ceiling. Look at it every morning, every night. Okay, number one. And then, of course, you need a plan. You need an action plan. So put together that action plan, whatever it is. And then when you take action, that's when the mental toughness kicks in, because things are not going to go perfectly. No. They're not good. I just told you one of my failures. I could tell you 20 others. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
I could
we could be
going.
Here all day if we wanted to, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So you got to learn from your mistakes. You got to learn from your failures and continue to take action. And just realize that I firmly believe this. So let's say it's a real estate investor. You have a certain amount of knowledge of being a successful real estate investor on a scale of 1 to 10. Right. So Cam, like for yourself, what would you say? Scale of 1 to 10. What's your knowledge being a successful? And I know you have success as a real estate investor, but where would you say you're at? Scale of 1 to 10.
I would still put myself down at like a 7.5 to 8.
Okay, so let's say an 8. Let's say you're at an 8. And what about your skill in real estate investing?
I'd probably put myself around a 7.
7. Okay, so you got 8 plus 7 equals 15.
Yep.
Right. And it can work for someone who has 9 or 10 or someone who has 2 or 3. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. This is just for an example. So you got a score of 15. Then you go out and take the action. So you multiply that 15 by the action that you take. Yeah. So if you're out there and you're taking 10 points action, 15 times 10 is 150. That's your score.
Right.
Right. Now that score is going to get you a certain result, a certain amount of success in your real estate investing, whatever that is.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, here's the key. When you take that action, it's not going to go perfectly. Some deals might go really smooth.
Yep.
Most won't.
I've had lots that didn't go smooth.
There's always stuff. There's last-minute stuff. Banks need this, all that stuff. Anyways, the whole key is when you take that action and you do that real estate deal, that investing, what happens to your knowledge and your skill when you do that?
It grows.
It goes up.
Yep.
It gets higher.
Absolutely.
Now, here's the critical thing. Most people, when they're doing a deal, it's not, and I'm always going to go back to, it's not going to go perfectly. They're getting beaten down a little bit almost, right?
Yeah.
And if you
seller's holding out for this, the bank came back, wants that, like anything happens.
So here's the thing that I want you guys to give yourself a pat on the back for, and Cam, yourself as well, to give yourself a pat on the back for all this stuff, because what happens is we got to think differently than there is. For example, if someone takes a flea and you put a flea, let's say in the Starbucks cup, without the water. Let's say it's empty, right? Without the tea in it. I stopped drinking coffee about five days ago. Okay, so let's say you put a flea in the bottom of the cup. There's nothing in there. And the flea can jump much higher than the cup. Yeah. But you put the lid on. It hits its head once. You take the lid off. It'll never jump higher than that the rest of its life.
Right.
Even though it has the potential to.
Yeah.
So the reason I said that is when you do your deal, you might get beat down. And so at the end of the deal, you're like, oh, man, I don't want to do any more, or that's it, or I got to think more conservatively, or whatever that is. But so when you go to do your next deal, your knowledge and skill have gone up. But one thing that usually goes down is the action.
Right.
And so the person's taking less action. So let's say you got 15 times 10 points action, 150.
Yep.
And then you're at an instead of a 7 and 8, you're at an 8 and 9. So now you're at 17. So you're at a score of 17. But let's say the action is now only a 7.
Yeah.
Because there was challenges in the last deal. Well, 17 times 7 is 70, 119, I believe.
Right. So your overall points have gone down towards your goal and your success.
Your success score, goes down there. So I want you guys to realize that, and just realize that when you're doing deals or when you're doing business, whatever it is, the best, the most successful, Henry Ford went bankrupt 3 times, I think, or something like that. Totally failed. He didn't care.
Yeah.
He just kept going. He learned. His knowledge and skill went up, and he took action. He started another company. He kept going. And he got better at it, and better and better and better, right? Like Thomas Edison, failed like 1,000 times. Kentucky Fried Chicken guy, Colonel Sanders, got rejected 1,012 times or something like that as well too. But the key is the knowledge and skill goes up, and you keep taking action.
Yeah.
Right. So just remember that. Don't ever quit. Don't ever stop. Just keep going.
Perfect. I love it. All right. So one thing I do on this podcast is I like to get a book recommendation. So one book that you feel has really impacted your life and you feel that you would want investors or anyone listening to the podcast to help build themselves, what would that book be that you'd recommend they listen to or read or whatever? I say listen to a lot because I've been doing a lot of Audible these days, but listen to whatever that book is.
Great question. You know what? I'm going to give a shout out to a guy. His name is David Goggins.
David Goggins. Oh,
yes.
I love that guy.
And his book is called Can't Hurt Me.
Yeah.
Can't Hurt Me. And I think it's a great listen to. I told all my clients to listen to it this summer.
Yeah.
And once you listen to that, and do the Audible. Do the Audible.
Yes.
Not the book.
Yeah.
Don't read the book. And the reason I say that is because the Audible, they do it almost like a podcast after chapters.
Yeah.
And he just talks about pushing through how we have a governor on our body, just like a car is a governor to control the speed. And if we can get through the governor, we can do so much more, whether it's fitness, whether it's real estate and stuff. And so I would recommend everyone to listen to that book. And then once they get through that, listen to the Living with a Seal.
Living with a Seal.
But listen to Living with a Seal after. 100%.
After. I totally agree with that. So David Goggins has kind of become a bit of a staple in our office. So Kelly listened to it first, got me into it. We've got the rest of the team, got you into it, obviously. That book is, when we're talking mental toughness, like that is the epitome of mental toughness. And I will put a preface on there. The book is tough to listen to at the beginning, right? I don't want to give any away. I really suggest you listen to it, but get through the beginning. It's going to be emotionally tough to listen to at first with what he went through in his life. But once you get past that and realize how it built his mental toughness and how he's taken that for the positive, it's incredible. And then again, going off to that Living with a Seal, it just is hilarious. But at the same time, he's teaching what he's learned to a big entrepreneur to get out of your comfort zone. And it's just, but the story, the guy's almost comical listening to it. And again, you have to listen to it because, reading it doesn't portray the emotion behind it that they do. And you have both the authors reading the books. So it's just, it's a lot better.
It's you got to read it. If anyone listening is a goalie, you get my book, Goalie Mindset Secrets, right? Yep. If you're not a goalie, it's more goalie specific, right? There are some lessons you can pull out and put into life, but I would recommend the David Goggins book. Is phenomenal.
100%. And Kate, you just mentioned that as well. So, I want to always give a shout out to you and figure out what can people do to get in contact with you, whether it's for goalie mindset training or maybe there's other opportunities that they want to connect with you at. You've got a book, obviously, Goalie Mindset
Yeah, Goalie Mindset Secrets.
Goalie Mindset Secrets.
It's on Amazon.
So so Google that on Amazon. Go check it out. But what are some other ways they can contact with you? You have a website or social media?
Yeah, for sure. If clients are, and I'll evaluate clients individually, right? So I specifically focus on goaltenders, but I do have, I do have some clients outside of the realm of goaltending. So if you're looking to apply these strategies that I use with my goaltenders to your business, to your real estate investing, you can contact me. You can call me 604-351-7985. You can go on, I don't know if you go on my website there because it's mainly goalie specific, right? But I would just call me. That's probably the best thing to do, or send me a text and I'll get in touch with you.
Awesome. And we'll link everything below to his website and everything just like that anyways. So you can connect with him. Just go into the show notes. Make sure you check it out. That about wraps it up here for us, Pete. Pete, thank you so much for coming to the studio today. I mean, again, we talked about it on my last podcast, but I love having people sit across from me, having these discussions in person. We do it sometimes where they call in, but I feel it's always more impactful. So thank you so much for spending your day to come in and sit with me and talk with me for the Manning Up on Real Estate podcast. So again, we'll connect everything below so you guys can connect with him. Pete, again, I appreciate it. If you guys want to connect with this podcast a little bit more, hit me up on both Twitter and Instagram. You can use the hashtag ManningUpRE to be able to connect, ask questions, anything like that. And, I would ask a huge favor of you guys, if you guys are wanting to, you're listening on the Apple app, go drop me a review. Let me know what you're thinking of this podcast. So that way, that review helps me get a little bit more traction on Apple, everything like that. And of course, if you want more content, you can hit me up on the social media, like whatever your favorite channel is, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I've also got a YouTube channel, youtube.com/Cameron Manning. Check that out if you want more content, tips, tricks, everything like that. I appreciate you guys as always listening to this podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thanks, Cam.
Hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now, hey now. What you gonna